G'day all, welcome back to the channel. We're back on the internet together again today. We're talking again Victoria today. Melbourne's violent crime wave spike. People are leaving. This has made the mainstream news now. It isn't just me harping on about it. And you guys at home who live in Victoria, or Melbourne more specifically, carrying on around the dinner table. This is mainstream media news. We're going to talk about this, then we're going to jump onto Prince Andrew, or no longer he's called Prince Andrew. He's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Let's jump into it.
Is right now in the grips of a violent crime wave with home invasions, carjackings and stabbings rocking the city every single week.
Some are now calling Melbourne the crime capital of Australia, with thousands of Victorians leaving the state. So what can be done to make this vibrant city safe again? To discuss, we're joined by former detective Charlie Bazina and
I like Charlie because he just says it how it is. They always cut him short because he starts going on full-blown rants. And they got to cut him off. We need RoboCop. We need the barge. I've had people say, G-Man, you're saying that people need to be sent out into the ocean to die. Well, if you're hitting people with machetes, no sympathy. Go on the barge, stays out there for a week in the middle of Port Phillip Bay, and rinse and repeat.
Melbourne restaurateur, the legendary Chris Lucas. Morning, guys. Nice to see you this
morning, guys.
After a big weekend.
Good to see you.
Look, first of you, Charlie, yesterday a father of three was forced to fend off 5 machete-wielding teens in Melbourne's north. It goes on and on, despite what the politicians are saying.
Yeah, very much so. And what we need is to equip the police with the resources. Jacinda comes out and tells us that she's given the police the resources. And no, she hasn't. We're desperate for Jack's Law to come down here so the police can start wanting these gangs of bucks that are roaming the city. Give the police the powers to search at any time. It won't be abused. People say it's going to be a police state. It's not. Just give the police the powers and the tools to do their job and make us safer.
And the police would welcome Jack's Law?
Yeah, very much so. And also then we flow into the demonstrations and the protests, getting a permit. Why she's been stubborn enough to say no, I just cannot understand it. It is not a...
Because that's her voter base. You don't understand that, Charlie. She's appeasing her voter base, which are these leftist, radicalist people. For the most part. She doesn't want to upset the constituency.
Safe city based on what they can give it. It is a partnership between the police, the courts and the government. But that partnership is only one only, and that's Mike Bush trying to run the best he can.
I had a fairly heated argument on Derby Day, and this was early in the day, believe it or not.
That's dangerous.
With a southwestern Melbourne MP. And the argument was that why not just do what Queensland has done? And she was much more sympathetic to the prevention and also dealing with these kids once they've been arrested in a very soft way. What do you make of that, Chris?
Well, look, it's a complex situation. I mean, what I do know is that we've suggested all sorts of solutions to the government, and we're not getting a great positive response. And it's affecting the confidence of the city. It's affecting the brand. It's affecting tourism. And of course, if people don't feel safe coming around into the CBD, I think that's something that we don't really want to have about our city, because you saw what the weekend was like.
Yeah.
It's an amazing city when it's in full bloom, when the sun's shining, and we want to see more of that. And I think it's really incumbent upon the government and the powers that be to really step up to the plate. Lots of really influential Melburnians have prospered, including Charlie, put forward many, many good ideas. We just need the government to act.
They're not going to act. They're talking about nothing's wrong here. Nothing's happening in Victoria. Good old Jacinta. She's been coming out, doing press releases, saying nothing to worry about. What are you talking about? Melbourne's the most livable city. What do you want about? There's something wrong with you, you racists. I want to talk about the CBD. As I said, I rant about this all the time because this is a topic which I'm very familiar with because I go there 3, 4, 5 times a week. The joint is an absolute basket case. Go to Elizabeth Street, go to Burke Street Mall. You walk down there, it is night of the living dead. You got people walking around that have clearly got some sort of schizophrenic mental health issues, substance abuse, and just really, there's no other way to say it, very confronting antisocial behaviour. But it's become the norm now because people scream, carry on, they're kicking the fucking windows in, screaming, like they'll randomly scream at people, the junkies, You know, they just find someone, they make eye contact with someone, then they're the target, screaming, carrying on. No one batters an eyelid at it. Flinders Street Station. I'd hate to think what people who are coming to visit Flinders Street Station as tourists think. They sold one version of it with the beautiful building and the clock there. And what do you get standing underneath that clock? Junkies, fuckwits carrying on. That's what you get.
Road girl, love Melbourne, right? You know, and we're all very proud Melburnians. But
Yep.
to see the city, the way it's changed, I think you can date it back to COVID, right? And you were very vocal, Chris, during that time as well. Where would you say the city's at right now? That was a different issue back then. But with this uptick in the crime that we're seeing these days, it's questionable when we say things like Melburnians don't feel safe on city streets. The media can be accused of being sensationalist. For those on the ground walking at you, work in the city, you're here every single day. What is it like?
Well, I think between the protests, which are happening every weekend, and the so-called sort of crime, which is sweeping most of the city, you know, it's hard to sort of get a run-up, get some clear air. I called for a sort of a moratorium, a break over the summer, so that we could all reset as a city, the traders could get back and have some confidence. And try and deal with, you know, the upcoming amazing events. You know, we've got the cricket, the tennis coming on, the Grand Prix. It's an amazing time in Melbourne.
I just don't think you've got to be able to stop this, because we have a lot of political fanatics on all spectrums of politics, all that stuff from America. We're little America now. It's all bled into here. I never used to even talk about lefties and rightists and all this sort of stuff. You know, back young people, you wouldn't even know who the Prime Minister was. All you cared about was getting some beers, having some darts, having a good time. Now everyone's talking about politics and political ideologies and arguing about them and protesting and all this sort of stuff. Little America we've become. Here it is.
And we really need to do something to just, you know, clear the air, reset the scene, I think. But unfortunately, again, we haven't had a great response. But it's an absolute priority, because COVID did knock the confidence of the city, as you know. And we were just getting back up on our feet. And it's a great city. It's one of the great food capitals of the world.
You've got some of the great restaurants that I've ever been to, and not just in this city, but you're opening Grill Americano, I think, in Sydney.
All right, let's move on now. They're plugging this guy's restaurants. So this is an interesting topic. Because apparently, according to the media, there's no gang crime. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? There's no gang problem. You're a racist for saying that. You're a racist. Now, Melbourne youth gangs are driving the crime surge. We've got two more stories on this, and then we're going to jump on to Prince Andrew being a naughty boy.
Melburnians are at breaking point as violent crime on our streets leave victims traumatised, police frustrated and the court system under fire. I spoke to the Chief Commissioner on how police are trying to tackle the crisis as part of our new series, 5 Nights, 5 Investigations, only on 7 News.
So what we've got here is a depiction of the 33 youth gangs that we've got operating in Victoria, particularly across Melbourne. So we know exactly who those gangs are, we know where they operate from, and we know every member of those gangs. So what you'll...
33 gangs. The Wild Wild West, isn't it? What the hell's going on? This place is absolutely cooked. Absolutely cooked. I know people have said, "Oh, gee, man, you're talking about the same topics the last few days." This is big news. These are things we need to be talking about.
You'll see here, pictured here, the small green boxes indicate a youth gang. There are 33. And we know the 610 members of those gangs.
So what we're seeing here are the 610 who are driving Victoria's crime surge right now.
Driving, committing, absolutely. We know their names, we know their addresses, and we know...
Yeah, so lock them up, dude. Cool. You got the Rolodex, you know where they live. Send Robocop out, let's just sort this out. Oh, no, gee, man, they're disaffected youth from, you know, from bad family backgrounds, and they didn't have the right parenting. Come on.
their associations.
When you get that CCTV footage, for example, do your members immediately go, oh, that's Joe Bloggs?
Our people are very active in
There we go, like the usual suspects here, isn't it? You can already tell.
these communities. Not only do we know who they
I'm
are,
not saying, I've heard people say in my comments, G-Man, you're racist because you talk about crime from people from non-white or non-Caucasian backgrounds. I'm talking about junkies all the time. I talk about the Melbourne CBD. It's full of white junkies. So the joint's absolutely cooked. You've got junkies in every single suburb in this country carrying on. We all know that. Junkies aren't running around with machetes and doing home invasions. They're complete fuckwits, I agree. They're a public nuisance. They do commit crime. They're not doing this level of stuff. That's why I'm talking about this. This is something that's become very prominent. Very prominent in the media over the last year or two, but very much at the front of mind for the last, I'll say 5 or 10 years. You know, there's been huge denial this is happening. Well, you can't deny it anymore, can you?
we have plans in place for each one of them. And they can identify them even when they're masked up by their behaviours, their movements, their gait. So they know who they are.
And of these, how many are out on bail? How many are free and how many are
Look at
behind
this shit.
bail?
So if you talk about
Are we living in a third world country? Are we living in a lawless place? Look at this. Walking around someone's house with just massive knives. Can you imagine that? You wake up and there's some dude in your kitchen brandishing a machete. Far out. And we're becoming desensitised to this because you see it on the news every day. Oh, it's just another machete attack, yeah. Oh, what was on the news? Oh, yeah, just another machete attack. Oh, okay, so nothing new then.
the 610, I would say around 500 or a little less than, maybe between 400 and 500 are still in the community, and we have a focus on them.
Sounds good, doesn't it? Sounds good. Well, what's that focus going to be? All right, if you're halfway through, we are halfway through. If you're enjoying the content today, I know it's a bit of a, not the most uplifting topic, but we need to talk about it. Consider subscribing to the channel. And like, comment, and share. That really helps me out. And press that hype button. If you swipe right on the comment section, if you're on a mobile device, you should get a little button there. You can press that. If you have hype points, apparently that helps get the videos out there. So we're going to talk about this a little bit further. So this is the 610 criminals that are holding this state ransom. And then we'll move on to Prince Andrew.
Evening. We begin tonight with the key issue Melbourne is fed up with, the youth crime crisis. The voice of 7 News viewers will be heard loud and clear in the coming week, with a series of special investigations to expose the suburbs of fear. How's this number? Police revealing to 7 News that a staggering 610 teenage offenders are on their radar. The suspects belong to 33 crime gangs, responsible for a majority of home invasions across our city.
What would be really interesting is to see, okay, what are the stats for Melbourne? So they've built up this database of offenders, database of gangs and mapping people to the gangs and all that sort of thing. How does that compare to other states? That'd be very interesting information to know. Do we have a disproportionate amount of crime? I think the answer is clearly yes, but what are the actual numbers? What are the stats on that? It'd be very interesting to have a look at that in further granular detail.
Police are answering an overwhelming number of calls for help. Mike Amor joins us now. And Mike, you went on patrol with officers seeing firsthand the terror.
I have, Peter, and it was a real eye-opener, to say the least. Over the last few days, I've spent time on patrol with officers and also with the Chief Commissioner. He's revealed police know exactly who is responsible for our youth crime issue. But more importantly, Mike Bush has a strong plan to get on top of it.
Oh, yeah?
Well, Melbourne
I've got a plan. The barge.
is sleeping. Operation Trinity is on the hunt for the gangs terrorising our suburbs.
So there's been a call for a burglary of a church.
We ride along as officers race to catch home invaders in the act.
How you going? You all right?
So police have just had reports that 2 people have been found inside this church. It's just gone 1:15, so not something you'd normally expect. It's a false alarm.
It seems like there's no problem.
But far too often, police find traumatised victims
Far
woken
out.
at knife point by teenagers. How young are we talking? How young have you seen?
I think I've seen offenders as young as 10 and 11.
Victorians feel unsafe and they're pissed off. Do you understand that?
I certainly understand the perception around safety because it's so important. If people
It's just a perception, guys. It's not real. It's just a perception.
don't feel safe in their communities, then we've got to do something about it.
This is
And most people go, yeah, no, this stuff doesn't happen. It's just on the news. Or what's the chances? I get that. Most people aren't going to experience this, but the people who do, very traumatising. But you got people who watch the news who then get anxious. So even by these things not happening directly to those people, they're anxious that it's going to happen to them. So that affects their quality of life and their perception of safety in the community. So it's a very real thing. I'm talking about the elderly, women, people who are going to the city at night, people with young families in these hotspot suburbs where these home invasions are happening. I don't blame people for saying they don't feel safe.
how Victoria Police is doing it. A map of the gang network, 610 thugs who are preying on Melburnians.
So what we've got here is a depiction of the 33 youth gangs that we've got operating in Victoria across.
It's a statewide
We already saw that, so let's move it on.
electronic monitoring system is the answer.
I think it's important to make sure that it's run by corrections and youth justice and not outsourced, but also that it's connected to law enforcement. So whenever there's a breach, we know about it straight away and we can deploy to that.
The Chief Commissioner knows the system works. It's widely used in his native country, New Zealand.
They've got to know there's a consequence. They've got to know that if they commit serious offences, especially if they continue to commit them, they're going to end up in custody.
Back on the streets.
Well, that's not the way it is now, is it? It seems like, what was the stat? I made a video yesterday or a couple of days ago talking about this topic. And I'm going to get off this topic. So this is the last video I'm going to make for a while until something blows up in terms of machete attacks. So that could be a day, that could be a week, who knows? But I'm very interested in this topic. That's why I make these videos, because I live here. But there was a guy who was released 55 times. 55, not 5, not 3, not 2, 55. He got released on his 55th time. He went and committed an offence 12 hours after. Oh yeah, they've got to know, guys, that there's a consequence to their actions. Doesn't seem to be one at the moment.
The officers involved in Trinity know anyone arrested tonight will likely be free before the sun rises.
Is it frustrating?
I think it's absolutely disappointing. I don't want to keep arresting the same people.
Do you get the sense then that they're scared of you? Scared of the police?
Not really.
They patrol the main roads used by gangs targeting wealthy suburbs to steal expensive cars.
Do they flee? Do they take off?
Yeah, they try and avoid us. I think the worst part that has me most concerned is the high-risk driving. These are young people that haven't had formal driving training. They don't have licences.
That's good. Hopefully, if they hit a telephone pole and take themselves out, that's good, as long as they don't hurt anybody else in the process. People can say, oh, gee, man, that's a horrible thing to say. They're just young kids making mistakes. They're not doing it once. These are gangs of kids doing it. They know the rules, they know the loopholes, they know they're going to get bailed.
And they're driving sometimes at speeds that, 180 kilometres an hour.
What's your message to Victorians? Will they feel safe in their home again?
The people of Victoria deserve to feel safe in their homes, on the street, wherever they are. And we at Victoria Police are determined to make that happen. We can, and we absolutely will.
There we go. All right, now we're going to go... I'm not going to say it's a lighter topic, it's Prince Andrew, isn't it? Good old Prince Andrew's in trouble again. What did he go and do? Now, there's been reports that communications between good old Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. That Andrew thought it'd be great if he could catch up if he was to be released. There's something just off about Prince Andrew. Someone couldn't make themselves look any more guilty if they tried. Now, who knows what really happens there and all that sort of thing. I know it's a black box. You know, Epstein got offed. You know, obviously, someone's gone and done that. Very clear. And Blind Freddy could tell you that. He didn't just neck himself. Then you've got the young, oh, she wasn't young, she's young at the time, that Virginia Joffrey, I think her name is. She was the one who was, you know, leading the charge on all this sort of stuff. She's gone now. You've got Ghislaine Maxwell, I think she's in prison. And you got Andrew out free walking around, but he's not helping himself.
Sex offender was released from prison. Look, I've got to say, it just gets worse and worse, Russell, and it comes as Andrew faces pressure to come clean and speak to a congressional committee investigating Epstein as well.
Well, it does, because, you know, Andrew has absolutely been shielded from most of this pressure from the US Congress. How many investigations have we heard of in the United States, whether it's from the FBI or different jurisdictions throughout the country, looking at Epstein's crimes? I think there is not only the pressure from the authorities, there's a certain sense of political pressure now. We've got the Democrats talking about it. We've got MPs in Britain talking about it as well. And you think, you know, the pressure came from obviously the royal family and the king taking this decision to strip away his titles, all his honours, and that, of course, for Andrew certainly was the biggest fall from grace that he could have suffered. But I think if the pressure is happening from both sides of the Atlantic now for him to talk to the authorities, then perhaps he might find himself in a position where he has no choice but to speak to FBI investigators, because certainly...
I don't know how this hasn't happened in the first place. Any other random person on the street, they would have been locked up and the key thrown away if he was to be found guilty. Obviously, he settled with the accuser out of court for I think it was an undisclosed amount of money. But he's very much protected, or has been protected. I think everyone's given up on him now, seeing him as the complete liability. But the vibe I get from Prince Andrew, obviously I've never met him, know nothing about him. I've seen just media reports and heard podcasts, people talking about him. He's somebody who hasn't lived in the real world his whole life, doesn't know how to operate, doesn't have any street smarts. So he keeps putting his foot in it, especially in relations to these allegations against him. The trafficking allegations.
That this case is not going away anytime soon.
Well, you talk about falling from grace, so we should talk about Sarah Ferguson. She's going to have to find her own home after she and Andrew were told to leave the Royal Lodge. Where does she sit in all of this, and what's her future look like?
Well, you look at what has actually happened here, and I think that the level of public revulsion over the last few days and weeks has reached fever pitch, because certainly that Andrew thought that he was completely shielded from that. He thought that the king would protect him, and of course, I think whilst the king and the queen have of course said that their sympathies lie with the victims and survivors of sexual abuse, that this was the king's brother, and he felt there was a duty of care towards him. He felt as though he needed to protect him. But then reports of Fergie certainly asking for somewhere else to live after she was stripped.
Oh, whoop-de-doo. Go spend your own money, for God's sake. That's the biggest rort ever. So Fergie and Andrew, I think they've been divorced, they said, for 30 years. She's still living. She's still sucking off the tea to the taxpayer, living in that, you know, what is it? What's that? A huge estate they were living in. That's absolutely nuts. Well, go and get your own place. Go rent a little flat. Be a normal human being.
Of her Duchess of York title. The public were not certainly happy with that. There was certainly calls for her to stand on her own 2 feet. Why on earth was she still living in a royal residence?
Exactly, because she's latched on like a parasite to the royal family. Just like Andrew. Andrew's protected. Andrew's like the little retarded brother of Prince Charles. Disabled. Can't operate in the world. He has to be protected by the family. Doing stupid things.
Even though she's been...
And I'm not saying stupid things in terms of those trafficking allegations. I'm talking about other stuff. I just can't even fucking operate.
Divorced from Andrew for 30 odd years. So, Fergie has a very successful career on the back of her publishing life. And she will have to stand on her own 2 feet now. There is absolutely no reason why she should be afforded anything for the royal family. And I think that you look at her career and it's certainly be in tatters now because of her own relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, look, it just stretches far and wide.
Stretches far and wide. Yeah, let's talk about. I'll make another video about that, Jeffrey Epstein. We'll talk about that if you guys would like. I don't know if you guys want to see that content on this channel. I obviously don't want to pin myself into talking about Victorian crime because I'm getting a bit done with that. So we're going to move on to different topics. Net Zero's coming. I think I want to talk a bit longer about Prince Andrew, Jeffrey Epstein. What's happened to all that? That just disappeared off the face of the earth. Too many people, too many influential people are likely had connections with him and they're making sure they're using their power. I'm talking people that are probably in government, politics, big business. They're using their power to make sure that doesn't see the light of day and never will.
An absolute mess, Russell. And look, I still quite can't believe this, but Andrew is still in line for succession. I mean, surely that has to be looked at now.
Well, it keeps on coming, doesn't it? First of all, we had Andrew stepping away from his Duke of York title. The announcement that he was going to relinquish all these titles didn't go far enough at all. That led to the king being heckled in public, and that really was the line that had been crossed. I think certainly people at the palace were very shaken at that. They thought that if this was to continue, where was the limit? You know, we have...
He's a liability, right? They've gotten rid of him and they're getting rid of him. I'm going to get on to the next story, I guess, for a couple of minutes. I'll just play that out in full. I won't stop and carry on with that. They've gotten rid of him because he's bad for branding. If they could have protected him and there was an uproar in the community, they would have done that. They would have swept it all under the rug. Let's jump into the next one. And then we'll call it there.
Well, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is facing growing pressure to tell US authorities about his links to Jeffrey Epstein as more details emerge about his exile. The disgraced former prince has been deleted from the royal family's website, and there are now calls for British streets named after him to be changed.
A Land Rover filmed leaving Royal Lodge, but still no sighting of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The disgraced royal reportedly only agreeing to leave his 30-room mansion after it became clear his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson is deserting him, reportedly refusing to soon join him in exile at the King's private Sandringham estate. Andrew and Fergie divorced almost 30 years ago, but were still living together. Now there are claims she's in talks with an expensive brand rescue team and is considering a move abroad. Buckingham Palace confirming the late Queen's corgis, adopted by Andrew and Fergie, will remain in the family's care, but didn't specify who gets the dogs. The process to delete the former prince from public life underway. He's been removed from the royal website. As details emerge about how the king told his disgraced brother his fate, it was reportedly over a phone call, not in person. There are claims Queen Camilla had concerns about how Andrew's alleged behaviour...
That's it. She dropped the boot. She said, Charles, darling, get rid of him. I'm surprised this hasn't happened years sooner. You know, what was that? There was that report, I think it was 60 Minutes, or a current affair or something. They interrogated Andrew over his whereabouts and the details behind Jeffrey Epstein allegations. And it was a complete dumpster fire. You know, when he was telling the reporters that the accuser was making it up because she said that he sweated on her and that he physically cannot sweat out of his body. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you had a good one. And enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow.